1 year after the Hamas attack on Israel, the Latin Patriarch of Jerusalem is calling on the faithful to participate in a day of prayer and fasting on October 7th. Cardinal Pier Battista Pizzaballa has been a tireless advocate for peace in the Middle East. In a letter, he notes that the Hamas attack on Israel has, quote, struck a profound blow on the region. He urges the faithful and world leaders to commit themselves to peace. And that attack plunged Israel into a war with Hamas and battles in Lebanon. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke about it at the United Nations General Assembly. He asserted that his country will be taking the fight to Hezbollah so citizens in northern Israel can return home.
As long as Hezbollah chooses the path of war, Israel has no choice, and Israel has every right to remove this threat and return our citizens to their homes safely. And that's exactly what we're doing.
Netanyahu brought attention to the ongoing hostage situation in Gaza, calling on Hamas to release them in order for the war to stop. Shortly after his speech, massive blasts rocked Beirut. The Israeli military says that it carried out a strike on Hezbollah's headquarters. The blast leveled 6 buildings. Lebanon's health ministry says more than 700 have been killed in the country this week. And joining us now is Mary Ellen O'Connell, professor of law and international peace studies at the Kroc Institute at the University of Notre Dame. Mary Ellen, great to have you back on. As in years past, the Israeli Prime Minister came equipped with visuals. He held up 2 maps showing what he called the blessing and the curse. Could you explain what that meant?
Well, the world heard those terms for the first time. They have no legal meaning. It was just part of the Prime Minister's rhetoric to try to get support for his ongoing policy of using military force to try to resolve the security issues that plague Israel. And Israel is plagued by security issues. There's no doubt about that. October 7th was a terrible, terrible violation of international law and human rights. But we've seen after a year, almost a year of war, that the problem is escalating, not getting better. I certainly am in full support of what President Biden and President Macron of France tried to do, which was create a 3-week ceasefire, certainly with Lebanon, and really support the chance to negotiate and create an alternative to using military force for Israel's security and for the good of all the people in the region.
Netanyahu also denounced the United Nations General Assembly as a swamp of anti-Semitic bile as dozens of diplomats walked out in protest ahead of the speech. He slammed the mountain of international criticism of Israel's offensive in Gaza. Are global leaders, are they starting to lose patience with him, do you think?
Well, global leaders have already lost patience with him. Israel has very few friends. Really, the United States is the only country that is standing by Israel in a meaningful way, in that we are the only country sending offensive weapons still to Israel, despite what the international community, the International Court of Justice, the International Committee of the Red Cross has said has been abusive uses of force, targeting civilians, not exercising caution, using starvation as a weapon. Only the U.S. is standing by Israel. And from what I'm reading about the White House's response, its reaction to Mr. Netanyahu's very aggressive speech at the UN today, is that maybe the U.S. is finally losing patience too. We worked very hard our diplomats worked very hard on the ceasefire, the 3-week ceasefire plan, and it was just rejected by Prime Minister Netanyahu at the UN today in a fiery speech. So it's really difficult to see why Mr. Netanyahu made such an aggressive speech.
We have about a minute left or so, but quickly, we know that shortly after the speech, the Israeli military said that it carried out a strike on Hezbollah's headquarters in Beirut, targeting leader Hassan Nasrallah. Do you think an all-out war with Lebanon, do you think it can be prevented?
Yes, war can always be prevented. We, in the Catholic Church, believe always in peace. We are always hopeful. We are always praying for peace. Peace is the right answer. If the United States will use its leverage to ensure that there is a ceasefire and diplomacy, we as Catholics must be behind that. We must believe in peace. The just war doctrine which is the origin of today's international law regulating the right of any state to use military force in self-defense, has a doctrine called necessity. And it says even if you have a right of self-defense to use military force, that must have some purpose. You must be able to gain a defensive result from killing. If you're killing for a vain purpose, only for revenge or reprisal, that is unlawful and immoral. I believe we're at that point with Israel's policies toward its neighbors, the Palestinians and the Lebanese.
All right, Mary Ellen, thank you so much for weighing in. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.